Welcome, everybody, to another podcast. I appreciate you taking the time. I have my wonderful, amazing friend with me today again. If you've watched the other podcasts, you know what Jody is capable of. I've asked her to come on to help me kind of interview myself. So I don't sit there in front of the mic and have no idea what to say. Because it's hard to talk about yourself. So Jody's so amazing, and I want her to explain, kind of tell everybody who you are, and then and what you have planned for me today. That would be wonderful.
Perfect. So I'm going to be a little bit different than the last time to encourage people to go back and check out the Who Am I podcast. So you can learn a little bit different story about me and a little bit different story about Connie. So what I'm bringing to the table today is a little bit of my coaching skills. So I have a social work background, and I have been coaching people for probably the last 20 plus years. I do a lot of intuitive coaching where I can tap into how people are feeling, and some of it is guided as well. So in what we're going to do today, I'm so lucky in that I've gotten to know Connie, and that a lot of what we're going to experience today and share with you guys over the next 5 to 10 minutes, because it's just going to be a little intro, an invitation for you guys to come back and actually explore the bigger picture and the full plate of my sweet friend. So we're just going to touch a little bit on what she has to offer and why her story is so important. So you'll get to see a little bit about my skills and how I get to go and pull that from Connie, because we have a hard time talking about ourselves because we don't want to let our light shine, right? So and our light is meant to shine because it gives permission for other people's lights to shine too. So that's what we're doing today.
Sounds good. I love it. Love it. And you are so good at what you do, which terrifies me sometimes. Because you pull those things out, as I've said to you before, you're good at pulling those things out that need to be pulled, and we play with it and we do whatever we need to do with it, and then you put it back in. So yes, I'm very blessed to have you here, and I appreciate you.
Awesome. So one of the ways that you and I have talked about keeping things authentic and real is that you often don't know the topic of what we're going to talk about. And that's part of with like the whole divine drunk and right with laughter and lightheartedness and all that kind of stuff. So yeah. So we do know what you want to cover in your podcast and what you're going to be talking about. But I get to pick the topic. So so fun. I'm so excited. So
why am I suddenly nervous?
Right? So like I did the last time, I also want to take another moment where I get to edify and validate Connie a little bit. And that's just something that I think we can practice in everyday life as well. So one of the things that we're going to share in this podcast today is that Connie has a lot of really important things to share in the area of chronic illness. And I have asked her to kind of showcase her story, because when we look at chronic illness, and being somebody who also has some issues of chronic illness in my life, we often see people that are up and smiling and working and functioning in society and just think that they're okay. And we think that people who deal with depression or mental illness or maybe diseases that we can't see, that they are full of crap or weak, or maybe there's some mental illness or mental issues too that go through people who are suffering with chronic illness. We struggle too, and sometimes getting up every day and stumbling forward. So the one thing that I've really asked Connie to do, and she has been a champion and has said, yes, I'm up for the challenge, is just to let people be part of her journey. So Connie has gone through many different health issues through her life. And so I'm going to get her to share in just a moment what some of those are. But she's also recently been diagnosed as well with another chronic illness. And so we're going to touch a little bit on that. So Connie, this is kind of where you get the floor a little bit, and I'll help guide you a little bit. But take your audience in, welcome your audience into what has it been like in your body, to like start us off from when you were younger, and dealing with some of your chronic illness, because I know that one of the big, most significant ones was dealing with your brain tumor. Right, that was a huge one. So welcome us into your life a little bit and give us a little bit of history.
Well, thank you. That was a perfect intro. And it's been a journey. She said it's been a lifelong thing. So, and it changes all the time, which is, I think my part of my purpose is to teach physicians or whoever about rare things, because everything I've had is rare. And then we all say, well, of course, be careful what you say, because it's not going to work, or it's going to do this. And so I've been a teaching vessel, I guess, for many physicians. But one of the things that kind of started it off is I was struck by lightning when I was 12.
Wow.
And so whenever they say that you wear, runners with rubber and you won't get hit is a lie. Just an FYI. I did have runners on. It didn't work.
I'll keep my heels on.
Yes. So, so the lightning, it was the most interesting and horrific experience ever. And the lights that were affected as well, still to this day, do not work. So it's kind of neat to go back and say, okay, here, because I was walking down the street with some friends and I had an umbrella. So, and I still have that umbrella. So that was how, it started. So that was the biggest thing when I was 12. And then I had lots of allergies and had to get allergy shots. And, fast forward to I was 31 with my brain tumor. And I had lost my peripheral vision and my sense of smell. So I went to the doctor and we did a CT scan, and they thought I had a pituitary tumor.
And you had kids at this time too, right?
I did. I had 2 kids.
And how old were they?
Pardon?
How old were they at this time, Connie?
So Adam was a newborn, my youngest. So Eric would have been 6. Okay. So I was diagnosed in 2000, March of 2000. So I came home and had to tell my husband at the time, my mom, that I had a brain tumor. And and I was driving home and it had to come out. At some point it had to come out. And I said, well, I have 2 young children. So, how is this going to work? And at that time, the recovery was going to be really long. So I was driving home and there was a song on the radio and it was called, excuse my language, but who the fuck is Alice? And I'm like, right, what the hell? So I named the tumor Alice.
Nice.
So, and it stuck. Everybody, called it Alice. So I could be talking to someone in public and we would be talking about Alice, and people would know, and who knew, and people who didn't would have no idea. But I was diagnosed, and then in March, and my husband left in September, walked out. So I had this tumor 2000, and I had it out in 2012.
Wow. So
I refused the surgery because I had 2 small children and they both have special needs. And then the recovery was over a year. And I thought, who's gonna, like, my parents can't, like, I couldn't pass the responsibility on to other people with raising my kids and going through all of this.
So I'm just going to stop you for a minute. So, because what I want our audience just to kind of be aware of as we're telling the story is that when we look at the dynamics of our life, that there's tons of ripple effects here, right? And when we look at chronic illness and we look at the things that we deal with, they don't happen in isolation. And that's what people don't realize, or that they don't acknowledge, right? Is that there's this Alice happening over here. There's divorce and separation over here. There's kids with disability over here, and how all of the threads will pull on each incident. Right. And how that interplays. And that's going to be something that in the future, right, because we're really just, like you described it, right, you're the strawberry and we're like dipping the story in that chocolate, right? So we're really just giving your audience, right, a really quick snapshot of some of the details of what you're going to share in detail in the future.
Yeah, exactly.
So please continue.
Yeah. So having been diagnosed with that and being in that situation, it was going to have to wait, which it did. And I said, I had it finally out in 2012. And again, what that looked like and the ramifications and the ripple effect and whatnot, we'll go into detail more. But then I had meningitis and was in hospital, and there was always something immune related throughout my life. There's always been something. So I have a heart condition, and I have, irregular heart rhythms that I have to get heart surgery for. I have seizures, and that's from the brain tumor removal. So I now have seizures, and I have most recently been diagnosed with a rare, of course it is, autoimmune. It's called Derkham's. And there's nobody in Canada that treats Derkham's. So it's all a learning curve for everybody that is involved in this. And this is the one that has knocked me on my butt. And it is a nerve condition, and it grows lipomas, which is, people can look up what lipomas are. But what it does is it's debilitating, and it is progressive, unfortunately, but, I'm trying to work really hard through it. Again, living with a chronic illness that people can't see is very hard, because one of the side effects, or one of the part of this, is not a side effect, is part of it, is weight gain. And with the medications, and that I have gained a lot of weight on it, which I'm okay with, because that's part of it. I understand that, but people don't understand that. So they instantly judge you. And it's like, for the love of God, please have a salad. And that's not have anything to do with it whatsoever. So right now I'm trying to work through what this brings to my life. I've had to stop working. And which is why it's kind of brought me to doing this podcast, because I know there's a lot of people out there that are dealing with chronic illnesses, as you were talking about earlier, depression, which is also a chronic illness. And I do have depression from, I've had it for years. It's managed, but as I said, there's always been something. I have, I pop blood clots, they call. So I will just all of a sudden, for no reason, have a blood clot in my lung, and then I'll have several blood clots in my lung. So there's always something, and which is embarrassing, because people, I feel, do get tired of hearing about it. So then you start to isolate and stop talking about it. And then you're dealing with this by yourself.
And I think that is one thing that I admire you for. So I also just want to make sure that we stay within a time frame too, as an intro. So I'll just kind of, again, move to really celebrating you in this decision to really put yourself first, right? And I think that when we describe a chronic illness, and we can say things like, this is the one that's really knocked me out. A lot of times it's because we've now put ourselves on the plate, right? So we can feel all of the consequences and all of the threads of chronic illness for the first time, right? Because we're no longer just putting our head down and running forward, taking care of kids with disabilities and, and divorces and all that other kind of stuff that life happens, right? When we can actually focus on healing, we get to see all the threads that happens with chronic illness.
Yes.
Right.
And it compounds.
It does compound. Absolutely.
It compounds, and it's like a snowball.
Yeah.
And, things from, because you put your head down, you ignore it, you don't treat it properly, you don't recognize it, you don't let it come up, you stuff it. I'm a good stuffer. I stuff everything. And, but it does, it's all connected. And one day, whether we like it or not, it will rear its ugly head because it has to.
Well, and the thing too, right, that you and I have talked about before, and I know that that there's going to be many opportunities, right, that we get a chance just to do more of these conversations live, that kind of stuff, or online and recorded podcasts, that kind of thing, is that your body will talk to you. Yes. Right? Your body will say, hey, will you pay attention to me, please? There's things that you need to heal. There's things that you need to take care of in me. And if we don't listen to our bodies and pay attention to those signs, our bodies will get louder and louder and louder and louder.
Yes.
Right. Yes. And so I really want to just acknowledge for you and what you're doing to the community of people who are dealing with chronic illness. And I welcome everybody to come and really just celebrate this journey with you, because I think that you're doing it in a really raw and authentic way. You're not doing it as a pity party. You're not doing it as right, that you need to validation or resources or support. You're taking care of that, right? You're really here to be a voice for people who are going through chronic illness, but as a way for people to say, oh, thank goodness that somebody else is actually expressing that. And I can relate to that and give other people a voice who might not necessarily have the means or option or strength to go and do that.
Well, and I want people to know that I see them.
That's beautiful.
I see them. And whatever they're going through I see them. Yeah. And, you're not alone. And so many people are going through it. And if it's not something I know from experience, I still see you. And I'm hoping that, to create a community of people that see it as well.
The strength that I know you're going to bring to this as we wrap up, Connie, has to do with Divine Drunk and what you're doing with this podcast. Is that this isn't about just being like taking the chronology or walking through with you as you go through this next set of experiences in this next chronic illness that you're dealing with, but that you have a beautiful gift in laughing your way through things, right? And that's why you talk about healing through laughter, right? And I really look forward to watching this journey with you. And I've been super lucky that I've got to see it already from behind the scenes. And so I look forward to seeing more and more of you in this podcast. And I'm so grateful that you're doing this for everybody out there. So thank you for letting me help highlight you putting yourself on the plate and doing this for an entire community that needs a voice.
Well, I appreciate the support from you, but I also need to shout out that it was you were the one that told me to put myself on my own plate, that it was time. And that I am thankful for, because I finally heard it. It was time. That's
you doing the work.
Yeah, but thank you. In a drunken stupor, I'm sure we were.
Hence, Divine Drunk.
Absolutely.
Right? So,
absolutely. But I do
congratulations on your launch.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Love you. And we will chat with you soon.
Sounds great.